Welcome, everybody, to episode 4 of the Smiling and Grinding podcast. We have a special guest, Brandon Rodgers, owner of L.E. Blake Machining.
Yeah, all right.
Rodgers, welcome.
Yes.
Our live audience appreciates you being here today. How you doing, man?
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Yep, absolutely. How you doing today?
Good, bud. Yourself?
Good. So before we get started, go ahead and let us know any of your contact information, email, phone, website, socials, anything that you have that if someone wants to get a hold of you, they can get a hold of you on.
Okay. Yeah, the best way probably would be email or text. My phone number is 440-452-3148. And then my email address is brodgers, that's BRODGERS at LE Blake, all one word, machining.com.
All right. I'm coming live from location today. I'm in the Caribbean, whatever you want to call it. Depends if it's pirates or not.
Yeah, it looks good, bud. I wish I was there.
Yeah. We actually, I just moved my desk around a little bit, and it was like in the corner of a gray room, and it kind of looked like I was in a cell. So I figured we should lighten it up a little bit, right? So Rodgers, let's talk about some different things. We'll talk about kind of your early life, your collegiate life, everything that's happened after that, and kind of tell your story as far as kind of where you've been, what you've done, and what you're doing now, and where you're going. So we'll kind of start at let's start at like your college years, right? So where did you go to college? What was your major? Any activities, athletics that you did?
Okay. Yeah. So I went to Marietta College and majored in graphic design with a minor in leadership studies, and actually played baseball there freshman and sophomore year. They gave me a small scholarship to play, and, just that was my passion, growing up was baseball. Went on a couple official visits and, University of Cincinnati, Worcester, Baldwin Wallace, and just finally decided on Marietta College. It was just a small, college in the middle of nowhere, which was good for me. Actually, it kept me out of trouble.
Yeah.
But yeah, then I wanted to get into architecture, but they didn't have their architecture program. So stumbled on graphic design and majored in that for 4 years. But also unique to Marietta College was the leadership program. And, that was awesome. I mean, we did a couple, just rafting and, it teaches you about, leading, kids and, it was just totally different. I never even heard of, a study like that. So early on, it taught me, a little bit about, how to lead people and, how to communicate with people properly. Yeah. And I just really enjoyed it. Met a lot of cool people down there. The college was, very small and, perfect for me. And the people were great. The teachers were awesome, small classrooms. And of course the baseball program, was one of the top, programs in Division III. Yeah. I didn't have the size really. I could have walked on Division I, but I wanted to play right away. And so, baseball was really strict. We had to have all our classes done by noon, and kids at that point, were, still waking up and, having some later classes, but yeah, we had to have our classes done by noon. And then we practiced from, 12:30, 1 o'clock to 6 at night, every day. We had no off seasons. Our coach was really strict, Coach John Shalley. It was, it taught me a lot about, getting up early no matter how you felt, and, getting your classwork done. And then, finding time to study on the side and in the evenings when you're dog tired after practicing all day.
Yeah, it's funny that you kind of went into that. I didn't know that, that's kind of where you're going to go with it. But first of all, you're right. I mean, Marietta was a dominant force, at that point. I think you probably should have went to Baldwin Wallace. I think that was the place to go. I don't know if you've been following it, but BW's really been making a run at it lately. Shout out to Coach Brian Harrison. But yeah, man, it's funny how there's some things that I wanted to talk to you about, and you kind of just led right into it. So I think knowing you for a while, I feel that you are a very calculated person, right? You kind of you think out a plan, right? You do a lot of research, you think
Yeah.
out a plan, and then you are very disciplined in your execution. You kind of, you, like I said, you put together a plan, you have your eye on the prize, you know how you want to get there, and then you execute that, without being distracted or going off course, right? You're able to, if you get a fork in the road, figure it out. But I think that you're very well thought out, and then you execute your plan very well. And I think that athletics has a lot to do with that, and everything that you just talked about Marietta and playing and everything, and getting up in the morning and having to go to practice and then class and then practice again. That kind of outlines your discipline right there. I know that after college, you play softball, we played football together. You're a very average to below average golfer. um, but you've stayed involved in athletics. So what do you think has really transferred from what you needed to do to be successful in athletics in college and afterwards, to what is to kind of some of the skills that you have had to use and harness to make you successful in life and in business? Kind of before we go back to your specific business and everything, how do you feel that athletics helps prepare people for life and for business? Because my last guest I had on, Guy Turner from the city of Berea, he played college baseball as well. So there's a little bit of a trend there. So kind of touch on that. How do you think that helps set somebody up for success?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. Honestly, I just think you have to work so hard, to be good at a sport, and you have to practice daily. You have to. It also goes back to studying your opponents.
Mm-hmm.
You have to really have the drive to succeed and be successful. And obviously that translates to business. In anything you do, and and practice makes perfect. And obviously, just working, and making sure that you dot all the T's and or dot all the I's and cross all the T's, and just making sure you're detail orientated. It goes hand in hand with sports, and business. And then also as far as working as a team, golf isn't a team sport, but everything else I played was.
Yeah.
And just you can't ruffle any feathers, and just you have to be able to work with each other, and bounce ideas off of each other, and because if you can form like a solid team, then obviously your team's going to do well. And then as far as business too, you can form a solid team in business, and then your company's going to have a better chance to succeed.
You put together a group of people, and you have a common goal in mind, right? You want to, in sports you want to win, right? And in business you want to make money, right? And it's each person on a team or in a company can have their own personalities, their own background, their own skill set that plays a specific role, that everybody else, it kind of complements everybody else. And that's kind of how you move forward. So when you are putting together a team or employees, right, you want to pick out certain skill sets that complement each other, right? People that are going to work well with you as far as personality, people that are going to have skills that you need, that either complement what you do have or what you don't have, right? And finding that right group of people to kind of go towards that common goal together.
Yeah, and it's trying to get the best out of your people too, or the best out of your your teammates, and learning what they're good at, what they're not good at, and then trying to find a way to communicate to them, just to bring the best out of them, and bring the best out of your teammates. It's just going to make your team better, and then also too, like in business too, there's going to be bad days, and then and you got to try to figure out how to uplift your team, and just so that doesn't turn into like a bad week or a bad month, and just overcoming obstacles. Obviously you're not going to bat 1,000 in baseball, and then with business you're going to have some down months, and some better months. And so it's just a matter of riding those ebbs and flows, in daily business, and that goes hand in hand with, any sport you play, and I always liked, just pushing my boundaries, as a human or as an athlete, and then you can do that same, have that same mentality with business, always trying to learn a new skill, I learn a new sport. And then, with business, just learning a new, you know, a new skill, or, just pushing yourself to keep learning, investing in yourself.
Yep.
And, you can do that with, baseball, football as well, like going into indoor, doing camps, going to agility, speed training, just, like, it's just crazy in how, like, far you can push the human body, and then you can just apply that to anything in life, really, after sports.
Being, kind of, what you just talked about with camps and everything like that. Like, I know that your kids are very athletic as well, right? And very successful in athletics, at both of them at an early age. And I think, perseverance, like you just talked about, is very important with that. But then also, you just kind of touched on training and everything like that. Like, when we were younger, there wasn't a lot of training centers you could go to and all that kind of stuff. But now, being self-aware is huge, right? You need to know what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. And there's so many resources available now to help you to overcome or improve on whatever you have a perceived weakness in, that it's just very helpful, right? You talked about, leadership group at Marietta, right? And when I was in college at Baldwin Wallace, I was terrified to speak in front of people. Terrified, absolutely terrified. So I took a public speaking class, and it's like, we had to do, the first thing that I had to do is I had to do a eulogy. I had to do a eulogy in front of the class, right? So I did a eulogy of, like, Homer Simpson.
Oh, I had to do that too. Well, we went to similar schools, liberal arts.
Yeah. Yep. But it's like, you got to step out of the box sometimes, right? You got to kind of make yourself vulnerable, see how you are at things, and then figure out a way that, if that's something you need to improve on, then you go ahead and you find a way to improve, right? And right now, there's so many resources, right? There's podcasts, there's different online trainings, and there's a lot of free resources now that people can use. So it's a great time right now for those that are self-aware, to be able to improve and become successful. But I think that anybody can start that. But to your point, perseverance and continuing to go, no matter what kind of day it is the key. In sports, you could have, let's say you're playing baseball, you could go 0 for 4, 3 strikeouts, but you can't quit, right? You're going to have another game that week, right? And you could go 3 for 4 that day. So it's all, you got to be able to keep fighting, keep working, and keep getting better. So
yeah, exactly.
Well, that was great. I didn't know that's where you're going to go with it, but that's great. So now I kind of want to get into your career path, right? So you came out of college and had a few jobs, kind of led you to not only hone some of the skills, right? You kind of started doing a little bit of marketing at an auto dealership and kind of went from there, and had some guidance and experience that you were able to leverage from your dad. But kind of walk through, so you're out of college now, you've worked on your discipline and everything like that. Your leadership, and now you are okay, I need to start making money. This is what I think I want to do. I need to find a way to get there, right? I'm sure you were putting a plan together. But kind of talk through that.
Yeah, man. So obviously, once I graduated college, my dad wasn't going to let me just sit around and, just play video games all day. So, I had to quickly, find out what I wanted to do. So, the unfortunate thing about graphic design is, like, this isn't a great area. Cleveland isn't a great area for graphic designers. Just coming out of college, it was very hard for me to, like, get in or fit in at his design shop in Cleveland. So
there weren't remote jobs really at that point.
Right? No,
it was on site. Yeah.
This was like 2003. So, I was going down to Cleveland offices, and showing them my portfolio. I had this big portfolio and showing them all my artwork and and everything, and they'd give you some tests, and you'd have to, like, on the computer, come up with stuff in a limited amount of time. And it was hard, like, I was so young, and I like I said, I went to college basically just to major in baseball. And and just stuck with graphic design because it was the only thing closest to architecture. And I enjoy it. It's a passion. I got to say I had, because then like my mentality totally switched. It fell back on that leadership program at Marietta College. I got into being a store manager at Abercrombie, and I was managing upwards of 100 kids, right out of college. So I mean, that was a challenge. Like high school, college kids, who were like roughly my age. And I had district managers and regional managers that I had to answer to. But managing a whole shop, working 60, 70 hours a week, it was definitely a challenge. But I learned a lot. Learned a lot how to communicate with people. And these were young kids. They're coming in half tired, like up all night, and coming in, and I'd have to open up the shop. We'd have to be there at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Half asleep. So I had to like put myself in their shoes, which wasn't that hard, because I mean, I was a year out of college.
Yeah.
But and just being fun and energetic, and just trying to overcome that. They're kids, and I mean, they're not really going to want to, do too much, but I had to like push, I had to push them, and, I mean, in Abercrombie, like you can say whatever you want to say about it, but I mean, it taught me a lot about managing at a young age, and so I did that for, I was trying to get into corporate Abercrombie, and that was to design T-shirts, because I was still wanting to get back to my major, because I'm like, well, I just went to school for 4 years. I can't let that just go to waste.
Yeah.
So, that never really happened. And that I would have had to move to Columbus, and, then we couldn't have hung out for as long as we've been hanging for. Right. So life happens for a reason. I ended up meeting my wife at Abercrombie. So, and then started hanging out with all you guys at Bowling.
Which I think that was actually the plan. I think you were like, okay, I like to plan. So what I'm going to do? Okay, so I've almost done with college. I know the next thing I need to do is I need to find a wife and start a family. So what I'll do? I'll manage some college age girls at Abercrombie and Hollister. So I think that was actually your plan. I know you'll never admit it, but that's what funny. I think the plan was.
I mean, I was surrounded by looking people all day.
Where are you going to increase your odds, right? Where are you going to give yourself the best chance to get it?
I know, you're right. I never thought of that.
So you had that, and then when did you start leaning towards machining and fabricating?
Well, so then I got into manufacturing. So that was then I got into Spartan Medical, which was the company my dad started. Had to work my way up, obviously. I had to work harder, because I mean, it's just like if your dad's a coach, they're always going to be harder on you.
Yep.
And so, so I mean, I started out in the warehouse, shipping and receiving, and then I went into handling like discrepant material, like parts that didn't meet spec. And I had to have to contact the customers. I mean, dude, I didn't even have a cubicle at that point. I was like using somebody's like phone and fax machine. And I made up like this little pamphlets that said, hey, so-and-so, your parts didn't meet spec, like we got to return these, and I would just do that daily. And I mean, and so from that point on, I got into purchasing, after I did shipping, receiving, and then I got into handling discrepant material, bond cage, they called it, bad parts. And then I started working my way up into purchasing. And so that's when I would call on, machine shops, sheet metal shops, board houses, cable assemblies. So that's when I really met, a bunch of people, a bunch of companies, and so I'd have
networking really. So you were doing your job, but you're also networking into other things. Okay.
Yeah. So I'd be on the phone, and I'd have like a bill of materials, and I'd have a bunch of prints, and I'd have to send these prints out to companies and have them bid on the work, have them quote on it. And so I'd have to come up with spreadsheets and, figure out who's got the best cost, who's got the lowest lead, the quickest lead time, make sure their quality is legit, actually go out and audit. I was on the auditing team, so I'd audit companies, and this was 2005 to 2010. So I learned a lot. I mean, that's where I learned all my manufacturing, and then at that point, I also went back to school at Ashland University and got my MBA with a concentration in project management. So that once again, I was working, I had teams that, I would project manage, and that's where another challenge there is I had some I had some Chinese and some Japanese, kids I was directing. And actually we did a project on Spartan Medical, like a cost reduction, type project. I got my Six Sigma black belt when I was at Ashland University. Just more manufacturing, type certificates and stuff. But going back to just always like pushing yourself, always, trying to learn, never being complacent. So I was calling on machine shops and sheet metal shops back then, and ended up hooking up with, Weaver Fabricating, and his and the owner there. He always kept coming into Spartan Medical, and he was just a different owner, than a lot of the other relationships I had with a lot of the other companies. And so he and I built a relationship, and I just, I liked, his, what he was saying, and his company did good work, and so he ended up needing some help, with, they had a little bit of debt, and they had an opportunity for me to like buy into the company, and so, we sat down, and, and at that point, I was ready to take on that next step,
Right.
as far as, my professional career. And so I was able to buy into that company, and that was roughly 2009, 2010. Yeah, started over there, and I was the purchasing manager, supply chain manager, but also the minority owner. So at that point, I get into a little bit higher level, you know, you know, um, cost
Kind of what it
benefit
takes to run a
analysis.
business and everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Just profit, profit analysis. Looking at bottom line costs. Getting into hiring, firing. And they roughly had like 35 to 50 employees at that point. So,
And when
but
you're doing the finance part of that, you're looking at it now that you're a minority owner. You're looking at it more of it's part your money, right? So you want to
oh
be
yeah,
very cost effective with everything. And when you move from an employee to a minority owner or an owner, you start looking at everything a little bit different.
oh yeah. So I was still doing all the purchasing, but then yeah, I would like come up with um cost reduction plans. They'd have to try to lower their price like every 2 years, just based on if they make the parts a couple times, they should get better at producing those parts and lower their costs. So
Yep.
I should get a little bit of that return.
Right.
Or I'd also try to, raw materials. I'd always just try to search for like the lowest cost raw materials.
Yep.
Have people coming in, just trying to strategically, come up with better costs, lower my costs, and therefore like we're going to have a higher profit, when the parts go out of our shop.
Yep.
And so, but at that point I met, both sides. I met customers that we were shipping the parts to, as well as suppliers. We
So is
were
this
getting.
when you kind of started thinking, okay, I think I can do this on my own. I think I can go out on my own and yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. At that point, I was just doing so much on a day-to-day basis, just everything. From figuring out the lowest cost packaging materials, cardboards,
Yep.
you know, you know, bubble wrap, the lowest cost soap, for all my employees.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, just everything. Looking at health insurance.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just everything was. It was just dollar signs and dollar signs. I just kept
Yeah.
seeing and just trying to reduce my costs, but also still not losing touch with your employees, and making sure they're happy. If you don't have happy employees, then you're not going to have a successful business, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, like you always gotta think about them, because there's a lot of times in manufacturing there's a divide between the manufacturing floor and then the office personnel.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always try to like decrease that divide, and just by my personality, and just try to go out there and and actually work on the floor, and not
Yep.
just be some office boy, some young kid coming in, part
Yep.
owner, thinks he's tough shit. I'd always just try to combat that, because obviously that's what they're going to think immediately when I come in.
Yep.
You know,
You got to prove
so
yourself, right? You got to prove.
yeah,
You got to give
so
yourself credibility.
build
Yeah.
credibility. And I didn't know sheet metal. I mean, I'm out there on the brake presses. I'm on the pen machines. I'm working some of the machines just so these guys can see me as an equal, rather than like this office,
Yep.
college kid with an MBA.
Yep.
So I broke through that divide, and I built, some really good relationships, and, did the business side, but also made sure I had good relationships with the employees, and, And
So then you
yeah,
get going, and you decide that you're going to start, your own shop, Ellie Blake, right?
yep,
So tell me a little bit about Ellie Blake right now, what you're doing currently, kind of, what's going on.
yeah, man. So yeah, year 4 of Belly Blick Machining. I never burnt bridges, when I was with my previous companies, and it's such a small community as far as
Yeah.
manufacturing and machine shops and sheet metal shops. So the customers that I built relationships with at sheet metal or at Weaver Fabricating, I called on them when I started my own shop, and they're like, "Oh yeah, yeah, like send us your contact info and like your some of the machines that you have in house, like your capabilities, and we'll start sending you prints, and so." Yeah, from day one, I had a customer base, which is it's not easy. Like when you start your own company, I mean, the biggest hurdle is like finding customers,
Yep. Got to get
So
revenue
I already,
somehow.
yeah. So
Yep.
luckily, I had like people to call on, and I was, calling on the phone. I made like some quick emails, on like what I'm doing, because a lot of people were like, "Where are you going? Like, what's going on?"
Yeah.
And so yeah, it started out, really, I mean, with anything, there's hurdles,
Yep.
I mean, I had to learn. I mean, I came here and I didn't know how to program a machine. I'm actually machining all the parts. I came from behind 2 monitors,
Yeah.
and a desk boy, basically to, having a mentor, here that his dad started a machine shop and then he took it over. And he's been doing it for 40 years. Like, I mean, he taught me everything about programming. Like within a couple months, I was programming my own parts. It was just day in and day out, like pushing yourself to like learn a whole new craft. I mean, this was totally different than what I was doing on a day-to-day basis
Right.
back with Beaver.
Right.
So yeah, and then just through quality, and on-time delivery, and just finding out what the customer's needs are. I was able to build a solid customer base, and I stayed lean and mean, as far as I didn't have a lot of employees, and that, and it's through COVID. So, I mean, obviously with COVID is its own hurdle, and
Oh yeah.
a lot of the bigger companies, couldn't sustain,
Yep.
through that, had to let go of a bunch of people. And the fact that I was so small, but, just kept, grinding, and,
Yep.
you know, every day, day in and day out. And I was learning a crap ton, and just, find out what your customers' needs are, and then, like cater your business towards that, is what, is some advice that I would give. And then going above and beyond, like I'd always try to ship the parts early, with,
Yeah. Put
in
your
some
best
cases,
foot forward, right?
yeah,
Yep.
exactly, man. It's tough, but, if you put your mind to it, I mean, and work hard, I mean, and you're gonna have like we talked about with sports and everything. I mean, you're gonna have issues,
Always. There's
but
always issues. Just like,
yeah,
like you just said with COVID, right? It,
yeah,
it, it represented a lot of issues, right? And Albert Einstein said in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity, right? And like you said, during that, a lot of businesses failed. Unfortunately, restaurants, businesses, it was a rough time for a lot of people. But also a lot of companies found a way to survive and grind and just keep going and going and came out on top. And it's great to hear that you are one of the businesses that did that, right? Because you need to find alternative ways to do things. If you always sit there and rely on, well, this is the way that I've always done it, or it's always been done this way, like you're in a falter, right? You can get to a certain point, you'll plateau or you'll fail. So you're right. So finding different avenues to do that, is the way to go. So um, you know the the journey that you just described from back in your college days to where you are now, it's fantastic. A great success story of just continuing to persevere, try new things, um, make yourself vulnerable
oh
by
yeah,
putting yourself in positions that you haven't done before, that you are going to have to work at to be able to be successful. Um, so what sort of advice would you give to somebody that is working at a job that is in the line of work that they may want to do, that they see their career path in or something, but they think, okay, I can probably do this my own way. I could probably open up a company that does this. I can start my own company that does this. What kind of advice would you give to somebody that's kind of teetering, but kind of may lack the I just want to put myself out there and go at
What kind of advice? I mean, first off, I would just say, like just to hustle and network like crazy, man. Like we've talked about, I've talked to as many people as possible, and don't burn bridges,
it.
be respectful, and then always get back to somebody. If you say you're gonna like do something, just do it. I mean, how many times do you say or do you hear like, oh yeah, I'll shoot you an email or I'll send you this contact info or I'll get back to you, and then you like never hear from them.
Right.
But I'm just very cognizant on just like if I say I'm going to do something, I make sure I do it. Like if I say I'm going to get this quote to you in 24 hours, I make sure I do it. Or like if somebody, sends me an email and like they're asking a question or they're sending me a PO, I just, even if I can't get to it like immediately, I just say, all right, got it. I'll respond here in a little bit. Just on the other side, it just tells them that you're on it, and it just takes one less thing off their desk, so that would be
Dependable, reliable, discipline. You're all of those things. But yeah, keep going.
Yeah, so that would be one of my biggest things. And then just never stop trying to learn, like don't get complacent ever, like just keep trying to push yourself to like learn new things. And like push your comfort zone. I mean, too many people like just get comfortable and just want to do the same thing day in and day out. I mean, I guess for some people that's cool with them, but
Yeah.
I mean, if you're an entrepreneur, that's definitely not your personality.
Yep. Yep.
I would say also surround yourself, with like-minded people, like in your circle that, like other people, because you tend to like, carry yourself and like same methodologies like and like who you're friends with or who you like talk to on a daily basis. So I feel like who you have your main contacts are like regularly, like reach out and like find other business owners, ask them questions, or other people that are thinking that have all these ideas, just keep in touch with them. Like there's a whole bunch of, like you said, resources for entrepreneurs, and just people that like you can feed off of and ask questions, bounce ideas off of. So I feel like that's another huge, a huge thing. And then like, yeah, don't ever give up on your ideas. I mean, you're going to have 50 ideas, and maybe like 3 of them will work out to be, something substantial,
Right.
I mean, you just got to keep fighting through, those other ones, until you, finally come up with, that one good idea, and then you're off and running.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, 100%, there's going to be failures along the way, but it's, it's how you come back from those failures. I believe that it's going to make or break you, you as a person, and then, your business as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, nobody starts out and everything is running smoothly.
Yeah.
And just never get too high, never get too low. Each day is a new challenge, and if you're an entrepreneur and you have that mentality, then you're gonna welcome that challenge, take it on, head on, and give it your 100%, and then there's you can feel good at going home at the end of the day.
Yep.
If you let you in your heart that you gave it 100% that day, then I mean everything else is easy.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And like you said, maintaining the highs and lows. But people say, this too shall pass. When it comes to the positives, you can't get too high. When it comes to the negatives, you can't get too low because, like they say, this too shall pass. So,
Right.
Roger, I appreciate you sharing your story with everybody. I had fun doing this. I think that a lot of people will get, I think you're very relatable when it comes to this, and some people will really take things away and help them to be successful. So, listen, man, I appreciate you being on today. We'll have to get a tea time in and get out there and play a little golf, man. But other than that, I appreciate it, and have a good day, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. This was fun. I was a little nervous in the beginning, but I mean, no, it's cool that what you're doing. I think it's gonna, help a lot of people. I mean, it's it's awesome that you're, getting out of your comfort zone doing this. It was
Yeah.
definitely, my first, and, anxious in the beginning, but like with anything, I mean, you've definitely gotten better after, your first one, and you're on your fourth or fifth. So, I mean, yeah, I would really enjoy what you're doing, and I've listened to them all, and yeah, man, just keep it up.
All right. Appreciate it. Thanks for being on, man.
Yeah, no problem, buddy.
Yep. Have a good one.